Hey guys, it's Mike here, and today we're going to be bringing you another segment on Dragon Ball Z, in which we're going to be asking whether or not a character was helpful. This week, we're going to be talking about Tenshinhan, and whether or not we thought that he was helpful in Dragon Ball Z. So, before we begin, I'm joined by a very, very, very special guest. You may know him as I can't think of a funny name, so you may know him as Big D.
The most credible YouTuber ever. Ice cold, no mistakes, right?
Yes, I guess that's funny. So, anyway.
I guess it is. Well, you make it funny, so.
Yes, with my...
Quite the laughing stock.
But anyway, it's Big D from Geekdom101.
Yeah, that's me. Let's talk about Tenshinhan.
Yes, we're going to talk about him today, and that is whether or not we think that he was helpful in Dragon Ball Z, and I guess we could talk about Dragon Ball and Super, not GT. Screw GT. But what do you think, Big D? Do you think Tenshinhan was helpful?
Well, you really do have to go back to Dragon Ball, because Tenshinhan obviously started there. The thing about Tenshinhan is that Tenshinhan was the first character that I would consider to be a truly redeemed villain. You know, even though Yamcha and Oolong were kind of comedic antagonists, so to speak, Tenshinhan is the first villain in the series who actually was really kind of a prick. He wanted to be an assassin just like Tao Pai Pai, and because of the warmth of Roshi and because of the will and determination of Goku in the 22nd tournament, he wound up being good. So in many ways, Tenshinhan was kind of the catalyst, the catapult for future characters that would end up being villainous and later become good, like Piccolo, like Vegeta, and like Buu. And obviously, as the series progressed more and more, Tenshinhan became less and less useful. The thing that's funny about Tenshinhan is Toriyama always found a way to kind of bring him back in one form or another.
Yeah.
He was not very useful in the Vegeta saga against Nappa. On Namek, he was dead the entire time. But he got some shine in the Cell arc, most notably the episode or the manga panels where he used the Shin Kikouo to hold second form Cell inside of the pit. Even though that still is a logistical nightmare for me, right? It's still like his last big moment where he really showed that he was useful in stalling for time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he did have that one very brief fight with Buu. I don't even know why they even wrote him in there in the Buu arc. Very, very brief against Buuhan. Or was it? No, it was Buu Tanks, right?
Yeah, it was Buu Tanks. He was trying to kill Dende, and then Tien showed up, and he blasted away the blast from Buu Tanks, which, I mean...
Again, logistical nightmare.
Even if it was against Dende, the fact of the matter, it was still Buu Tanks, so that's pretty impressive. But maybe it's just the Tri-Beam is that ridiculously overpowered, or OP, as people would say.
Well, the thing about the Tri-Beam / the Kikouo is that one of the things it is very powerful. One of the things that I always have pondered is the retconning of that move, because when you first see that move in Dragon Ball, the entire ideal behind that move is that most people who utilize that move end up dying, or it at least shortens your lifespan. And it's heavily implied that when he does that move, his life gets shorter and shorter. And if you go even further into Dragon Ball Z, when he sacrifices himself by shooting a gigantic Kikouo on Nappa, he dies after shooting that beam. He dies. So, yeah, that kind of fits with Dragon Ball. But then you see him do like 25 of them on second form Cell.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was more in the anime. But as far as whether or not he's useful, he's had his useful moments. Overall, he's more useful than Yamcha, less useful than Krillin. I would say he does have his moments, and then, of course, in Resurrection F, he is one of the fighters that bravely showed up and helped fight, so he's got his moments. He also was useful against Piccolo in stalling for time. Piccolo could have been destroying things. Goku showed up, and I'm talking about Demon King Piccolo. Goku shows up. So at one point, Tenshinhan was the number 2 babyface, all right? That's what he was. Goku was the number 1 babyface. Tenshinhan was number 2 all the way until Gohan was introduced. So I would say he is useful. Not as useful as Krillin, but he is somewhat useful.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I definitely have to agree with all of your many points. And the thing is that with Tien, It's just that there was numerous opportunities, especially after he was introduced, where he really could have been on par with Goku. I mean, like you said, he was that Piccolo or Vegeta. He was the original, evil person, rival turned good, and he even trained with Master Roshi. He learned the evil containment wave or Mafuba, even though he got to use it in the anime, which was really cool, but in the manga he just shows up and his rice cooker was cracked, which is kind of disappointing. He's like, oh, I could beat Piccolo without it. It's like, no, you can't.
Yeah, he self-taught himself the move. You could tell that Toriyama wanted to give him a little bit of a push there, but much like, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, much like other Dragon Ball characters, Toriyama kind of forgot about him, or whatever you want to say. Yeah, so what can you do?
The thing is, sometimes I do wonder, considering that Tien was dead a lot of the time, or he was off training, considering that's just how he was written to be, or just how he was in general, I do have to wonder if you replace Krillin with Tien, would he be just as effective as Krillin, or would he be even more as effective? Because, I mean, of course, Krillin was even more effective because he had the Destructo Disc, you know what I mean?
I see.
The thing is that Tien has that most ridiculously overpowered attack in the Tri-Beam that could hold back, semi-perfect Cell or blast away a thing from Bootang.
That's
so, how helpful do we wonder could he be?
And then also, does he have any limitations? We don't know. We don't know, really.
Honestly, when it comes to the humans in general, I don't think that they have any limits. I think that the thing is that they just take, obviously age, but they haven't even gotten old yet. I think the thing is just with Dragon Ball, humans are just physiologically slower to develop than other characters. But at the same time, when we think about it, look how strong Tien is, and look how powerful his move is, and look at the training methods he does. He didn't train he trained on King Kai's plant longer than anyone, so it makes sense that he is pretty strong, but most of the time he just trains with Chaozu out in the wilderness. Like, he doesn't train in this high gravity.
Are you sure they're training? Because,
well, they call it training, but...
because I was going to say, maybe he looks at him and he's like, I wish I could forget you. a little creepy.
But, I mean, imagine if Tien trained in high gravity like Vegeta, or imagine if he did this or that. Like, Tien is ridiculously overpowered when it comes to the Tri-Beam, but at the end of the day, it seems like how he's written, how the humans are written in general in Dragon Ball Z, that makes him a lot harder to be useful, because it's all about the Saiyans after a certain point, especially when it comes to Super Saiyan. I mean, Tien trains for 3 years, he's gotten pretty strong by regular standards, but then Goku goes Super Saiyan in front of him, and he's like, oh, he's in a completely different dimension than me. But then, of course, if you use the Tri-Beam example against semi-perfect Cell in retrospect, could Tien just kill Frieza and all these other characters at that point?
That's the thing. I almost feel like if he would have nailed 18 with that fucker, he would have killed her. But yeah, he got his ass kicked by 17. Yeah, freaking.
I mean, to be fair, Tien didn't really get the chance, but why was he stupid enough to charge the freaking androids? But then again, sometimes I wonder if we kind of undersell the powers of the humans. We never get any power levels on them. For all we know, obviously the anime makes it even more so, but the way that Tien was performing against the Cell Juniors, at least in the anime, he got the shit beat out of him in either case. But I mean, sometimes I wonder if these characters are actually really strong and we just don't really understand it because they're just so significantly overshadowed. But I mean, just applying that to earlier characters, it just seems like Tien would be able to just destroy a lot of these villains. But at the end of the day, I think Tien
He's always behind.
Yeah, I just think Tien is best at holding, he's best at stalling for time, and he is very useful when it comes to backup and support. He's definitely more useful than Yamcha was.
You're saying he's a B+ player? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, he hits people with the Tri-Beam Plus. I can't think of a Daniel Bryan thing. But, do you think Tien is actually useful? Do you think that, what he does makes a difference? What do you think?
I think he's made a difference about 2 or 3 times in the whole manga, and that's it. I mean, that's the thing. He's done it, but it's not like he does it all the time.
Yeah, I just wish that Toriyama could find some way to put these humans back on par. All he has to do is, Frieza trained 4 months and he's stronger than gods. All he has to do is say, oh, Tien found some crazy new method or a new master from another universe.
He found the gem of Katorak.
He became the Tien or not, or whatever the heck they would call him. But, yeah, at the end of the day, I think Tien could be very useful, and he's great stalling for time. It's just that he's a better fodder than Yamcha is most of the time. It's like, he does well, he's stronger, he trains well, he kicked Krillin's ass, I'm sorry, I just gotta say it, but he just, like, he's not a Saiyan, and he's not Piccolo, and even Piccolo is useless these days, so I think he can be helpful, it's just whether or not he's written to be. And that's really the humans like in a nutshell.
That's everybody, man, yeah, really.
So,
except Goku.
Yeah, except for Goku, who always gets the glory in the end, but he is Goku. But in either case, this has been another episode of Were They Helpful, in which we were talking about Tien and whether or not he was helpful. I mean, he's awesome either way. Tell us your own thoughts in the comments section, and if you think Tien is actually helpful, and when what your favorite Tien moments were. Also, don't forget to check out Big D's channel over at Geekdom101, which will also be in the description. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Unless you have a heart attack.
Yes, and then there's not much more to come.
Not much more to come.
Or you use a tri-beam, and then you're freaking dead, except for if you're Tien.
Yeah, there you go. Retcon of the year.
Yep.
Century. Bye.
You better subscribe!